Good, 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 good. Ce matin. Oh, look at this ce matin. In Madison, Alabama. Cannot say that, I suppose. Yes, correct. Always imminent, but, not quick, quick, quick. But, but, but. And I am not finding that but. Hmm. So that but, it caused this to leave to Mary's Airport in New Amsterdam. That crucial moment this way. And I figured out probably something of this part here. That seat beyond, they're thinking that way. So that way it could be what is causing her to kind of have this there. And if she puts this part there, then it probably needs kind of a that part there, I suppose. And getting back to something of this quite crucial, and recognize what that's about. So if it does it like this way, then it always will, and we don't have to remember that. This mom feels these things. This just out that part there, that there. So something of this demonstration would go that way. The mom would get with that type of blockage. So in other words, this and have to go and would get that message today. And oftentimes I'm finding that something of this I probably traveled with. We're seeing that part there of that passage of that of Greece. A massive one. And once I get that type of triangle, I suppose we are seeking the boot. And I cannot find the boot. This but, cannot find that but. So it cannot find the but. So I don't know where the but is. So that the child, and I have to get some type of essentials. I have to get this part together, this part here together, and that mallet for sure, that mallet there. Now, that part, I can be very like an induction, like that, with that lever. So the lever would be something of this, but I kind of don't like this one. I had another one that had something of this there. Why? This part, it seems not to have it, and it then would cause something of that nature. So I would probably put it back there. So I don't know. You probably would have to sense that the butt needed to be analyzed. Yes, no, kind of demonstrate why we're getting back to mediocrity of shoes. And I am just saying I am kind of having a stylish moment. And that stylish moment could be quite this there, and was able to find something of this in Guyana, which comes from that part there. What is causing her to know that part would be something of this part showing to her. So when you're seeking how could sense that this part of her could show to that lady, I don't know, it's a toe, for example, and gets at this moment. And if it's kind of a gifted lady based on the hands, then it will do this quite often. Not just in the mood to do so, I suppose. So this type of shoe here could be placed in that category based on the come, come, come. This shoe, if it blisters mom and is able to find, put on some type of chaussette. This type of chaussette, you see, this type of socks. Sock. A sock would be just this would be a sock, and socks would be something of this. That part here. This would be. So I guess it's something that says it could bascule, but the bascule with the child, this part becomes nude, and that's why she gravitates like this type of sandal. She could have purchased it in Guyana and get it ripped apart only in the United States. So this part will say it has that passage. This and this does not, but creates an animosity with this type of buckle, you see. So I guess the buckle would see this and gets rid of it and leaves her shoes alone. So once those things are done, she's able to go and kind of recompense herself. Yes, no. Get some essentials, put it in her mallet. So the mallet kind of likes to be described once, and that's it. So I would say once, and that's it. So getting into that airport could have recompensed the child with her mallet and causes not to be able to be. And that's it. So once those things are done, getting back to the reality becomes quite impossible. So I guess the Rev wants it to be reversing the government, and I could not be called for those type of things, but I get quite shaky getting close to the child with the mental of it, so she can and then kind of gets to herself. So when those things are done, I guess her kind of gifting seeks to be diminished, and the more it seeks, the more it feels like it wants to diminish. So the girl is getting to an age where okay, let it be. So it gets to that bit, but the bit still has questionables. In other words, it touched down into Mary, and that hides also. So we're having that part that hid in Guyana, and we're having a mallet moment that hid in Guyana. So that part kind of demands answers why, and has to deal with it severely, it seems, with, I guess, the way the solar works, that part there. So I suppose I have to kind of put on my chapeau. I'll probably put on my chapeau in a minute. Now, when this is done, why is she having this moment? And had a candle moment here as well. So this candle moment has this type of glass there, and it kind of suits. So this part here of the wick is kind of a quite caoutchouc. This one, and the other one is quite a lever, so it kind of straighten up itself, in other words. So when that's done, if I kind of seized it, then it has to be something that has a caoutchouc less. Why I find it pitting, and at that part I find it and gets to admire it. So that part, yes, that's how she does. And oftentimes, it's the perfection of the planet, this type of mechanisms that's taking place, and not a mechanism that dangles like the pantaloons of So it puts it there. I sense that what I do is kind of peep, not. I do this part in Greece, and that part of Greece does have thousands waiting for this type of things to take place. So I leave it to the discretion of, I don't know, my apus, perhaps. I'm not sure about that. So if it's left to the discretion of the puce, it will shake to the demands of the puce. So oftentimes it's part of a hidden character, and that character does not come forth, perhaps, for something of a this, you see. Let me see if it's right there, that hidden character. Ooh. And it causes me to kind of soothe my back, my lower back, that type of ant, that type of V's. It's kind of. So I'm sensing a no. A no, no, no. Oh, guess it's disappeared, in other words. I guess it disappeared, in other words. And getting back to this type of. Getting back to this type of. Quite visionary based on these things, why I have a time and place for this type of work. So I kind of, it hits, for example, something of this could have hit mom this way based on these things. So I have a cap that's could kind of take off a bit, this type of cap, like a cap fairy. The show mom cannot be washed out. These things were going on. So it would say when I get back to that part, and if it's gone, then it gets back into nature, I suppose. Not get into the frivolities of what is this, dirt, and so forth. I guess now it gets to that type of reality based on uh, being fatigued by them, while their absence is kind of lacking the flowers, and their absence could demand get away from the chosens completely and have to deal with it, and does not do so. So it seizes perhaps self. So when it does that destruction, it sends a message, not this has to be out in that dimension of Odola one day. And this is what this could have revealed to that Greek lady. And then she probably retracts from reality. So they have to get to her quickly and soothe her based on something over this easy, something of this, and not getting deeper. So it would not seek to gaze this type of why it's future, and I cannot expose these things based on some a mechanism that kind of says we kind of like to drift from it, something of this nature, and when it's this nature, it kind of dampens this type of book, and this is quite on alert for those things. So it perhaps and includes. So the girl would kind of put it somewhere there, type, and leave it there. So that would be a bit for this type of things to go on in that country and not America. So the bit I am always, what is the bit? Cannot. Why this snow cannot be? And then they would sense that this was a celebration for the child, probably, and puts it there. So it gets, if it's seeking to get back, it gets kind of relaxed. This part of her, it relaxes and causes the lady to, oh, I have to get this going. It seems it shakes. So sometimes it gets to that kind of passage without, based on that beat. So the beat of Guyana would not be this. So it kind of left there. The boot is always a concoction in here somewhere. Is she going to catch me today? I was interested in, I guess, her kind of journals for these type of things. Her journals, how she notes these type of things here, and start to how she gets this part of herself, and how she sort of gets to some things of these. I guess that part could have been a major. This lacking out to get to this part here and studies it well with things of, I suppose, it could be something of this part here, or it could be something of a sort to this here. And this she could have seen that much based on everything is summed, paid, grandmother, husband. If I have to this type of person, to plus house, go home, becomes somebody who stole this, to kind of get into that atmosphere. So you could have stole this somebody based on, I'm seeing a base sept at this part here, and I'm seeing a matter here, and a grantee base point out glass. So I don't know, I did a bowl, appeal, feet, bridge, and then I'm seeing botanicals, and didn't relate here. I'm seeing a talk of M3 based on pull that word, and is quite puzzled. So these type of things would say I use a scientific metaphor, motor car, boat, airplane, instead of that beat. So I would find a beat of this land, this beat of Guyana. So this is where this lies for this lady, this mom, based on this. I wouldn't call it the pot de chapeau, but it makes it regular easy to stay away from this when she gets to the land for this type of purchase. And oftentimes it shakes at the amount of time. If it kind of seeked America, it goes to approximately 2 weeks her in the land this way and dwell. So once she gets it that way, what is it about the GT that is the beat of the land? Like, she could probably not care after that part why the condition kind of shakes and we're getting extremely hot days to extremely cold days. So I mean, it's hot there, but I was probably born there for that eon, this type of reason there, which is absolutely one of this caricature, when we're getting just a white eon here, for example, a white eon, we could it could be extreme. This type of white eon, extreme, extreme. So hopefully this is not a factor y that I'm finding of this extreme, of this extreme. If it's at this factor, then she has to get back for the boot and wait EC and not the EC. So her this part here leads her back to that land they're suspecting. And in the entry, if they're seeking to double up on the ways based on the act, then it probably will do so. It kind of doesn't bother of it. Why you can be prosecuted for this, why you cannot just sense that it puts it to corrupt and put that away. So it will say that the GT here, when it's this factor, what am I doing is say flee Alabama, and that's it. Now when I have this going on, these explanations are quite simple to understand it, instead of retracting from a mom and not understanding her ways, and leave that alone based on the suspiciousness with how we handle those type of hops. So I would say that it is not a big deal based on how she on the toes, why it's suspicious that they do, and that's all they need to kind of keep that descendant line away forever, and knows nothing else, which is quite a wrong chance, because the mechanism of knowing other people's life based on this eon, could it be interesting? Possibly. Why it would only deal with that, I guess, this of the white man. So if it is, then the corruption I cannot handle and has to leave. Now if it senses, then I sense that they're not only leaving, but I'm sense that they're guarding and seeking secrecies, the command I cannot handle. So it doesn't want to strike somebody, you're thinking. So it probably will push the strike. And since the white man again, I don't want to deal with it. Now because of that part, this part here has been so distorted that it kind of sense when it hits that perfusion point, you will sense it not. So if they're dealing with, I don't think we want to deal with this lady, this land of Guyana, and how mom would get it, it's from this type of white eon. And quite from the time she was born, based on, I don't know, probably just one knot, just one knot. Now if she really has three, she could probably get the entire conversation back and forth. And oh, this is a little much. Oh, it's a little much. And then deals with it by now when it's a GT, I guess I'm quite away from that and into something of a this, where it says we're seeing that there. In other words, it's if I'm getting an eon of this, is that a nouvelle? Possibly not. So I'm not only seeing it as a this, like an airplane of a supersonic. So it could be something of this that was missing from that type of supersonic of this Concorde France, and has just one note. You should have not have any notes there based on the waves, and it would have been plucked and that control technique was not possible. So it's and I don't want to deal with it. So I'm sensing what it would move to is kind of eon of just this color you see, of that color. One of the muses, not I'm dealing with naught, so I would just put a check on there and peep and comes back. So that part is telling me that where this X factor is this GT of Guyana. In other words, like a Mustang with the same problems of this France. And that, could you get rid of that part? You cannot get rid of that GT. That's waiting for this mom. Does it involve getting to this type of car dealership? Possibly. Can you possibly hide that part? I would find it probably in that pole. Pour the chapeau first. And if I find it there, then I guess I will put it in something of a K and would with this GT at all times. So I'm sensing there's somebody who lives in an M community in Georgetown that could have a massive quantity of cars that needs examination of those things and has to sense fleeing Guyana, fleeing Alabama becomes quelque chose of destruction. Put it in the Comedy Boulevard and leave it there, like Bordeaux. So it will have it this way of Bordeaux and finds it in Reading Hoop. So when it is Reading Hoop, I could get it in Read. In Hoop. This type of issue. And work there quite extensively with there's a kind of police home, and there's a lot of extensive training. I guess the training could concerns that missing link they're thinking to get these things in. And this, if it's tight, then it will be dismantled, and possibly I would need this type of camera to do so to get it out. So I sense that I will this well with this type of all of this type of things there, and where this part is would be in there. So it and has to deal with that locking. That part will lead to something of a this matter. Something, if I have it here, it will lead to something of a this here, and has this going on for things of this part. So this part could be in the white man's eon and stole it in America. I don't know how they did that part here. So the girl moves on. Now it has its this access, this type of lady, this mom, for this type of eon. So if I'm having something of this here that I purchased in this type of pharmacy, I could have got it in the modal part right here, this way, and it has an OK from that daughter. So I would have a F9 in this land of Guyana, and have this confusion of this type of bounce DIH with something of a future, and it doesn't know so. So I am not sensitive to these things. Now with that type of society, which would be called something of one big, so it could be this with of a one big with those type of eye on there of a emoji, and it uses her photos only this small. So this part is quite interested of things that she pelted out there, And if it doesn't have an explanation to it, it has a 1 times 3 thrust on it with something of a lack with, for example, this Saturn instead of an N. So it becomes a little complex. So this part here, I could do that there for now. And if that's understandable, then that part becomes quite silly. Why, this could be running from that and it's right there and has to shut the door. So it cannot be the forefront. Why there's so many, it's not a prediction, it's a lot of candles that is being sold in the stores this way. It has to probably be purchased instead of tipping the planet. Or stop seeking to, this is an evil plot based on some land of Greece that has a beat that is concrete hiding. So when I get there, it's the beat, but it could be on a daily basis and not corals. So the corals could have eliminated this part of her thinking. So that type of roughness of that outside had to sense animosity and it doesn't like it eating her mouton. So now it has to the beat. She could have a beat EC based on that part there, and kind of have to put it aside. In other words, or is it a moving on, and it's a difficult task for the heavens. So you cannot seek going to church for these things, but just in case it seeks this type of evil has the past. So now it senses merger, and the merger has to be with an emoji and uses the glasses. Did you see that from the start with this type of piss-less society? So it puts like this H. So the H would be something of a print, of a type of PowerPoint with something of a big, which comes back to something of a this part here. So, and would have a fast, which is like a time lapse. And this mom could be already in Supernam, dealing with a subject to speak and has to go. So oftentimes that type of time lapse is a dangerous matter for her cubs, and have a descendant line that could have the time lapse based on that, and seek evil sin of either a rape or putting a massive disaster on a foreign nation of type of esquis. So this is quite to the point based on stay away from her family, and is getting to the root of it by going to Paki. For example, Rivoli could have a land trust with MH2, can use Rivoli a home in some type of Apple store with that type of crochet and that type of LOL. So I would sense that I found the LL and is not getting that. I'm getting things with some love on the LOL this way, and is not sensitive to it. So that would be, and I guess that could only be sold with this part here, NH2, NH2, and not an emoji. So this NH2 would get it with something of a N. And I sense that after that N Ocean, after that purchase, would be a land trust plus this cough. So the cough would kind of gets to this type of thing, this mallet. So to purchase that, it probably she has to be in Supernam and have type of a web, which she has with this type of milkshake. and get it there and negotiate with the mom, her cubs, and she gets to stay there and gets her car. These type of trust and this type of things more this way, and it goes. Why I cannot have it because of this dad of this axe. So oftentimes I sense that it's kind of a funny thing, this type of axe, kind of a something of a this nature. So this could have a MH2 with this type of N here. So I'm thinking they probably do, and she throw it and has this part here. So it could be in this what she used to purchase for her cubs, and it had to be, but it didn't do so. So you could have it with a MH2 car, and sort of finding it with this type of this H formula, which is M2. It has an M2 and gets to this nay here. So this nay here would be just this there for the mom, and it doesn't have it with her. So that's a problem. So with that being said, mom is going to wrap it up with, I don't know, about 36 minutes. I don't want, it's probably a purchase that caused her to say so, based on a kind of a script, it seems. So oftentimes I cannot get to that based on that of mom, and I could have probably did, and there I am blessed by my family. Now it becomes quite fatal will be based on this type of titanium, and has to sense it. So it kind of like this part here, it could have touched EC there. So like to tell her, it could have. And oftentimes if it touched her there, then that she probably snapped it. So it will probably release that.